Well, it's 8 o'clock. What are you guys doing tonight? Oh, this is my first one. Caught me end of a late night treat. Don't be shy, whoever's out there. Say hello. Oh, that water's good and cold. Well, let's get this party started, shall we? Welcome to my live show. If you didn't figure it out by now, my name is Smitty. Man, I tell you, the storm that happened up north sure put a damper on things. We're waiting forever to get parts. Finally got my last part for L to the W's transmission. Trying to get him finished up. A lot to do when you do a modified transmission. It takes time. Boy, that was a quick one, in and out. Teased me like that. So how is everybody out there in YouTube land? Everybody doing okay? I'm doing pretty good. Got kind of warm down here in Florida today. It's kind of nice. We'll spin outside and wash the house. Well, part of it, half of it anyway. I didn't get around the other two sides of the house, but I got the two front sides that were pretty nasty. But enjoyed some of that weather. I didn't want to be in the shop too long. It was just too nice out today. For too long, it'll be hotter than you know what down here. Just get super hot. Got to take care of take advantage of the nice days. We got a few popping in here now. I got to thank you all for stopping in, and I got to thank all the subscribers that have joined the channel here recently. It's crazy. I can't believe I'm like 1,322 or 23 subscribers now. Can't believe it. Sometimes I got to pinch myself and make sure it was real. Something pretty crazy. When I was out there power washing the driveway, I had my just some cloth sneakers in there on, and they got pretty wet, and I dried them in the sun. Then I put some socks on and put the shoes back on. Been wearing them around this afternoon. I just took them off, and holy crap, do they stink. Pretty bad. Oop. Well, whoever's out there, what would you like to speak about? I'm wide open, all except for personal stuff. I don't do personal stuff. Don't do politics either. But anyway, what's going on? How are you doing? Mr. Grandy? Looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa that you got for your you're amazing. That's awesome. Me, I'm doing just wonderful. If it was any better, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So anyway, I was building a 6L80 at work this week, and of course it had a torque converter failure and filled the case full of metal debris and everything else. And I get to the point where I'm just about done with this transmission, and the 6L80s and 6L90s have the TCM and solenoid assembly as one piece inside, bolted to the valve body. We have to pull it off to take the valve body apart to clean it. And when I pulled they call it a filter plate. It's on the bottom of the solenoids before it bolts to the valve body. So it was full of metal. So then I ended up having to replace that too. And it just like one thing after another on this transmission. It got hammered pretty good. But I had it all together, all except for that, before I left Friday. So we're good to go. Nice. That's one of my favorite years of Nova. That's the old square body, the little square body one. And that was before they changed it. I think 67 they changed it, right? So, what made you decide to put an LS in your 65 Nova? Why didn't you do the traditional small block Chevy and all that other jazz? Just for nostalgia purposes, I guess, for me. Yeah, I get it. A project. How much did you have to change to get it to fit? Well, I'm going to give this until about the 15-minute mark, which is coming up here pretty quick. I'm probably going to end it due to inactivity. I mean, there's not a whole lot of anybody chiming in, so I'd like to have more participation. I I was wondering the same thing. I don't know where everybody's at either. I know. Oh shoot, I can't think of the guy's name. From California, he said he was going to be here, but haven't seen anything yet. So how you doing, Mr. Deer Slayer? Steven, that's the guy's name. Man, I was drawing a blank. Yeah, he said he was going to try to get out here and sawmill, huh? That's a different profession. Imagine you cut a bunch of those big pines they cut down here. They harvested a great big field full of those tall pines. About a month and a half ago. Used to be all woods across the road from my house. Now it's all open field. Kind of stinks. I like the trees. A lot of hardwood. Well, I can understand that. There you are. I was wondering if you're going to come by. Looks like we've got a couple more people coming in here. But down here in Florida, there's a bunch of live oak. What's happening, Brian? we just had some of that, some of those live oaks trimmed down here, and we got some for firewood. And heck, I went through that stuff, and man, them dang things weigh a ton, and they're just full of sap, so they got to dry out some. Yeah, Stephen, I was putting a call out there. If I didn't get some more participation by about 15 minutes, I was going to end it a little early tonight. It was kind of quiet. Well, I'm glad you do. I've got one that's I sent it to him. I don't know if he's looked at it or not yet, but usually he responds to him. I sent him a link to the video before I post it so he can view it, and he didn't answer back, so I don't know if he's seen it or not. But at any rate, I've got another one coming out. Tomorrow at noon, and then yeah, I'll let you in a little secret. I'm just about done with the transmission, but the videos I've kind of been trying to space out, so something for the YouTube algorithm to pick up on. Hopefully get me out there in front of some more people and help grow the channel some more. It's been growing pretty good on subscribers, but yeah, Brian, I'm kind of detailing it for him to be able to see what we're doing with this thing. Yeah, Stephen, we just had a drain field replaced out here for the septic system, and I need to get some grass seed on it and some fertilizer or something to get some grass to grow on it, because now it's just down here. It's a bunch of lime rock and sugar sand, and it's hard to get anything to grow down here. But anyway, yeah, I've got another video out there too for you guys, and I'll release it here before too long. What's next is the one coming up is low reverse, setup, stack, and measurement, because there's a way to measure it for the right clearance. And then after that, there's some reassembling the auxiliary valve body and pinless accumulators. That 6-pinion would be nice to have, just for the fact it changes the gear ratio. It takes it down from a 308 first gear to like a 284, I think it was, first gear, and it makes everything closer together. But with a good stall, if the thing's unlocked, I mean, it should help anyway. But I'd like to have it, but I'm like Brian. I don't know that it's worth the money. No, Deer Slayer, I think I looked up. He said his has got the G92 option. Which, according to what I found on research, That car that he's got should have a 323 gear in the back end, which is a good gear. Um, I know when I get ready to put I've got an actual rear end for Scarlet because it's just a drum brake rear end, and I've got one that's got Willwoods on it. It's out of the car, but I think I'm going to change the ring and pinion on it before I stick it in there, and I'm going to put a 342 in it because I've had those cars with 342 gears, and it's a perfect all-around street gear. It's good if you want to take it down the track, and I'll have a decent converter in it. So we'll run that until the we'll run that little 7 5/8 until she croaks. And yeah, I'd agree, Brian. If it was about $300, it'd be a no brainer. But that thing's like almost 800, 700 to $800, something like that for that setup. I mean, I'm sure the machining and everything else is worth it, but I'd rather spend that money on a good converter and you know, but yeah, if I was to do the 6 pinion on it, I would definitely go to a different gear. I'd probably put 373s in it just to compensate for the difference in the gear ratio change. Yeah, I knew it was like between $700 and $800, somewhere in there. Yeah, I I can't wrap my head around it, you know. I'd run it if somebody gave it to me, obviously. Which that'll never happen, but yeah, there was an article of a guy that had a Corvette that was pretty well built. I think it was a C5 or C6, and he put that in there, that gear set in there, and it dropped like a second and a half off of his quarter per mile time. It was stupid. Pray for one in a core. Not likely you'll ever see one in a core. I mean, usually if you find one that's in a core like that, they know that that's in there and they're going to keep it. I've been kind of watching to see what the aftermarket does with or is doing with the 6L80s, even though that transmission's going out. And they got a lot of neat stuff for that thing. Brian, remind me what you're doing. You're doing one too, aren't you? You're doing a 60E for something. And I think you said you had the 4L79 drum and all that good jazz, if I remember right. What's your 69 got in it for a power plant? Is it a small block, an LS, or big block? HCI. I'm not catching what the HCI is. I know what an LS1 is. That's a 350 out of a Camaro or Firebird 3rd or 4th gen or Corvette. I can't wait to be able to get started on mine. I'm just chomping at the bit. But I offered to help L to the W out with his transmission, and I think that's who I haven't seen yet. Jonathan Lawson isn't on here tonight, but I've been meaning to get back with him and email him. I think he wants me to do one for him. And then Chicago's Finest Moment had mentioned something that he might want one done for him too. So that's a pretty nice setup. Pretty nice setup indeed. That ought to make a little bit of steam. You running any kind of extra power adder on that, Brian, other than what you got in there? You plan on running any laughing gas or any choo-choos or anything like that? Well, I've got that 480 that I built. I think I told you last time the guy brought it back to me, and it's been in service about 6 months and it just quit. And it's just a refresh, basically. The TCC valve was laying in the bottom of the pan with the plug and everything, and I guess the retainer disintegrated or blew out or went somewhere, but it didn't hurt much, just burnt some clutch a little bit. So I'm going to refresh it and get it back to him. That'll be done. I got another 263 transfer case, since strangely enough, the 263 transfer case has taken some serious steam on the channel. I mean, the view count on that is just crazy. I don't know what it is about the pickup stuff, but it seems to go over real well. But I still like doing the cars and the transmission and stuff. I really want to be able to get back out there and work on the donor and see if I can get that old girl running before I pull it out. I just want to hear it fire. I went in and got some plugs and some tune-up stuff for it. I've got enough wires here if I need to patch a wire or something like that. But just getting time to work on it. This last week was really bad for me personally. That's as far as I'm going with that. So don't ask me what. But getting head back in the game and getting time to do stuff is just ridiculous right now. They've got me buried at work. I've got 2 transmissions tore down on the bench right now. And I've got another one waiting outside I got to get apart. And in fact, I had to give up one of my easy pay jobs to one of the other guys so they can at least get it out of there, because I just didn't have time to work on it. I've got an 8L45 out of Colorado, trying to resolve an engineering deal that they want me to do. I am flat rate to an extent. I've kind of got a special special pay rate because of what I do. And I do a lot of noise, vibration, and harshness diagnosis, which takes a lot of time. They have me using a pico scope, and if any of you are dealership techs, you'll know what a pico scope is, but I'm basically the main one that does that kind of stuff on top of doing the transmissions, because transmissions you can't make flat rate on. You just cannot. You can if you're just swapping out a box. Steven, it comes and goes. It just seems like lately all the transmissions have been coming in at once, which that's fine. It keeps me busy because nobody else in the shop will touch them. And there's a good reason. You can't make any money on them. You really can't. I mean, you get tied up with one, you're stuck with it, you know? But then occasionally you get a customer that you do something for, like they had me put a new engine in a 19 or a 20 Camaro with a LT1 in it that went south. And this old boy's just been nitpicking this car to death. I told my service manager, says, I don't want to touch this car. Even as careful as you are with these cars and working on them and stuff like that, make sure you do everything. Just make sure it doesn't look like you've been there. Somehow there's something that somebody will find to point out if they really want to be stringent about it. But anyway, we got a rehire that came in there, and he took the baton, and I was like, half had it. Turns out he ended up having to put an ECM in it. This car's got like 5,000 miles on it or something like that. Just had the dog poop run out of it. And he wonders why it's just falling apart. I mean, it's not really falling apart, but there ain't much left of the back tires. Let's put it that way. Brian, I was looking at your cam specs. That's kind of a strange cam spec. 277, 235, 613, 620. That duration's kind of strange at the most. Oh, okay, that sounds better. 277, 285. Yeah, that sounds a lot better. Yeah, Steven, there's another one. I've got another one coming out. It'll be out live at noon tomorrow. I try to post it. I've been trying to post it Sundays at noon, and then Eastern time. So it'll be like 9 o'clock your time, Steven, and in the morning, and then 7 o'clock in the evening Eastern time, 4 p.m. Eastern or Pacific on Wednesdays. Been trying to do them on Sundays and Wednesdays, because the way that works is it gives me enough time in between there during the week to get the videos edited and get them out there. Because I mean, if any of y'all have tried this and done the channel, the long videos, if you're actually editing like I do, I can have 2 hours worth of video footage that may take me 4 hours to edit for, a 35 to 40 minute video. So it takes some time. And then you ask, well, is it worth it? I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy teaching. I'm tickled to death when somebody can take something from my videos. It just thrills me to death. It really does. 'Cause I'm sure as hell not getting any younger, and I just wanted to, to give somebody some of my knowledge. I don't have any kids to share it with, so. And Stephen, I may be exaggerating a little bit on that, but I mean it's pretty close. I mean, let's see, the one that's coming out tomorrow, it's like 35 minutes long, and it took me about 3 hours to edit it. I've been learning, I taught myself how to use PowerPoint because I rarely have used PowerPoint. I mean, I've used Excel and Word, obviously, but um, somebody had mentioned using PowerPoint to do the thumbnails for the deals. Works out pretty good. Brian, which video are you talking about? I did quite a few of them there at work, actually. That's kind of rare. I don't want to push my luck with that, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah. Well, that was actually the same transfer case that came out of Bertha. I just fixed it, but yeah. Um, yeah, I actually got lucky and I was able to do that on a weekend, and it was after hours on a Saturday because I don't want to do it while everybody's there. Somebody say something, you know what I mean? One of these days, it's probably all in my dreams, but I'd like to build me an actual shop that's big enough that I can put a lift in here at the house. I really want to get something big enough I can put my camper in and stuff like that to keep the sun from beating it up. Because I tell you, this Florida sun down here is hard on stuff. Yeah, Steven, I actually have, um, this is a Samsung, but it's a A51. You can actually edit the videos on this too, but I don't know. I guess you got to be more phone smart to be able to do that, and I don't think that's me. I'm I'm more computer savvy than that. Just and I've got these big old bear claws. They don't like to push them little buttons on the phones very easily. How do I do it? And what do I use? I use a program called. You're going to ask me that. I'm going to have to look. It's called VideoPad Wave Editor, VideoPad Editor. It was one that was that I found online that was reasonably priced, and it works pretty good. I had some trouble with it at first just because my computer couldn't keep up. I'm probably at the low end of a computer for doing rendering and stuff like that, which is what you got to have for doing video. And believe it or not, I'm running out of hard drive space pretty fast. So it's not going to be too much longer before I'm either going to have to build another one or find some different storage space. But I record most of my videos on an old Galaxy Note 4 phone because it'll record in 1080p. And the reason why I use it is because I can use a lapel mic by Movo. That way you can hear me better. I've got another camera, and it's a Canon. It's one of them handheld jobs. It does 1080p also, but it doesn't. I can't use a remote mic on it. So the mic on the camera does okay if you're talking towards it, because it's got a like one of those directional mics, basically. As long as you're in front of it and talking at it, it picks up your voice real good. But if you turn to the side or something like that, it gets pretty quiet. And it's just not, the sound quality of it's not as good. The video quality is fantastic on that one, but the sound quality is not. But yeah, then I bring it into the house. I upload it into the computer, and usually it's in segments, and I'll put them in different files, and then I'll edit everything. And when I'm done, I'll save the reason why it probably takes up so much hard drive is I don't throw anything away. I probably should, but I don't. You know what? Most of the time, you're going to find it's hard to believe, but even if I mess up, it's nothing. It's not usually big, so I don't usually delete anything out. I mean, I don't. It's, to me, it's better off if you show. My thoughts is you see a lot of these guys out here doing these videos, and everything's almost perfect all the time. I ain't what happens in the real world. I mean to tell you. I screw up stuff, and usually I will record it. Sometimes it'll end up in the video, sometimes it won't. But oh yeah, the struggle is definitely real. But I don't usually re-record the whole thing. I mean, I'll usually pick up where I've got and explain what I did. And the biggest thing is I want to be able to show what I did, or if I screwed up like that, so you guys don't make the same mistake I made. Because that should make sense to you. That's the whole reason of teaching and the way I do, is because I don't want you to make the same mistake that I did. I want you to, because you're going to make mistakes in anything you did. I mean, that's just part of life. I mean, nothing's all roses and chocolates all the time. I mean, you get some bad apples and some sour grapes. I know that's a terrible analogy, but it's what I could come with off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, when everything's done, I save the file and then I upload it. I have to convert it because the way this video editor, it edits it in its own format. And then when you're done editing and stuff like that, it converts it back to like an MP4. And that's how it gets uploaded to YouTube. That was kind of a long-winded response, Brian, but Yeah, I did, but every time I clean it off, it seems like it just piles back up with crap again, and it's all stuff I use on a regular basis. I really wish I had more room to work. I mean, I don't. Um, I plan on down the road building a custom transmission bench. No, you're right, Brian. I do need to clean it off. That's for sure. Um, but I'd like to build me a custom um, bench out of steel. Like the plate that I've got on there is, I don't think it's 1/4 inch. It may be 1/8 inch steel, 1/8 or 1/4 inch that I laid on top of that table. No, that's not a cocktail. That's just water. I'm not that big of a drinker. If it is, I'd be some slobbering drunk in front of you, trying to talk about absolutely nothing and babbling. Not much of a drinker. I did enough of that when I was growing up. Did some stupid crap growing up too. I'm glad I had an angel on my side too, because no, that's not true. I drink a beer occasionally, Stephen, but I usually like a craft beer. Um, like I said, I did enough of that beer drinking growing up when I was a teenager. Did some stupid stuff that I shouldn't have lived through, but I did. So yeah, I usually like a rich beer or something like that. But beer just kind of fills you up and just kind of makes you feel bloated. Um, so I got enough problem with the bloat as it is without that. And see if I drink, what's my poison? There's this rum we found. It's called Blue Chair, and it's fantastic. They've got different flavors. They got a pineapple one, uh, a cinnamon. It's not really. Yeah, it'd be a cinnamon. What's the other one? Coconut. Oh, it's freaking. They're fabulous, and mix them with some a little bit of vodka and crushed ice, and you get a hell of a good drink. I used to one of the drinks that I can remember. We went to a New Year's party one time when I was young, and a buddy of mine got me hooked on Jack and Dr. Pepper, and holy crap, I'd never been so inebriated in my life. It was crazy. I couldn't stand. I couldn't see. Of course, I was a lot thinner back then too. Yeah, Jack Daniel. You got to have a unique taste for Jack Daniels. I mean, it's just that stuff's pretty brutal. Uh, in fact, there's still a fifth up on top of the cabinet back there that I can see from here that hadn't even been opened. It's got plenty of age on it. But oh, it's not that bad. It's drinkable. You get past a certain point anyway. You can't taste it anyway because you're so just washed up and sloshed that, I mean, you don't care anyway. You're just a stumbling drunk. What kind of blended whiskey you like, Brian? Oh, hey, Jim Beam has got a cinnamon whiskey. Holy crap, it's hot. Good stuff. It's kind of like Fireball, but they call it something different. What's up, Jerry? Did you find anything good out there at the salvage yard? Rot gut whiskey. Yeah, it leaves a lasting impression for sure. Man, I tell you, the salvage yards that we got down here, the pick and pull or the LKQ is about the only one that we got here close, and they are an absolute flipping ripoff. It was crazy. So here, I'll give you an example. I went in there and I was searching around. They had an actual third gen there, and they had an upper plenum on there with a throttle body that was in better shape than the one I've got. And I was like, well, cool, I'll pick this up. And so I took it off and took it up there. This gal up there charged me for the throttle, but wanted to charge me for the throttle body, the upper plenum, the air charge temperature sensor that was in it. She on all that stuff separately, and it was like something stupid, almost $100 for just that upper plenum. I was like, "What are you smoking? This is like $25 worth of stuff." She wasn't having it. Yeah, Brian, that's one thing that I absolutely won't do. I won't ever drink when I'm building something. And I definitely won't ever drink and drive. It's just not worth it to me. I take a lot of pride in my work, and I'd hate to screw something up because I was just a little bit on the smash side. Yeah, didn't calm me down. Just makes me a drunk. Get all lightheaded and everything. Yeah, some people are that way. I've heard a lot of people partake in the extracurricular smoking activity, and it does the same thing, calls them down. Yeah, that's a bad idea for me. I remember that stuff back when I was a teenager, and all it did for me is make me want to eat everything in the house. It's okay on the reaction shaft alignment of the 5 holes of the relief. Yeah, the reaction shaft, you need the reliefs in that reaction shaft have to line up with the holes that are in the ring gear itself. If not, you'll burn up that planetary. They have to be there. Why did I move? Well, it was like this. I had my own business. I started a business in 2010 doing general automotive repair and performance stuff. And I started with a loan for 10 grand. And in a couple years, I grew that business to $500,000 business. And I got to the point where I cared so much about my customers that I was just working myself to death, and I couldn't find good quality help that didn't want an arm and a leg or think they deserved an arm and a leg. And and then I couldn't get it done right, and I was too picky on doing things right, and it was literally killing me. And the wife seen it, and she says, "You got to get out of that." I says, "I don't want to be putting you 6 foot under." And she had mentioned that she wanted to come down here to get out of the cold weather because she's had surgery on her elbows, on her radial arm nerve that goes across this elbow here and right in through here, and on both elbows, and so they're real sensitive to cold weather. I was like, all right, well, you pick a place and we'll see if we can make it happen. So we started looking actually in Virginia. We almost found a place around Roanoke, around in that area, up close to the mountains. Seen a lot of great houses, but we have 2 horses, and the train wasn't right for the 2 horses in the price range that we could afford. And so she had came down here south, just, oh, we'll look around here. And she had picked a couple of houses, and we found one we really liked. And but it had mineral rights on the property, which means that if anybody's got rights to the property, they can come on your lot at any time and drill and stuff like that. It's like, nope, we're out there. But then she found this house that was like a secondary backup one. And long story short, this is where we ended up. And so basically I had my business for 7 years. And now it was her turn to, for us to do something together. So she picked moving down here to Florida. So that's how I ended up here. Steven, I've seen all sorts of stuff with some pretty shady characters, and it ends up bad. So I get that. G73, to answer your question, no. You could run that same rear end, because it's the same rear end whether or not it's a V8 or V6. Usually the V6 has got a higher gear ratio, like it may have the 2.8 may have a 373 or a 410 in there, one of those two. You'd have to look, if you've still got your option label, you'd have to look at that and see what axle code it's got. It'll start with a G. So if it was like a 342, it would be a GU6. GT4 is 373. GT5 is 410s. GU4 is 323. GU2 is 273. Subsidiary of Midway Ford. Yeah, I know all about Midway Ford. They're there in Kansas City. Did a lot of business with Midway Ford. Jerry, that is pretty funny to watch the Walmart freaks on YouTube. Which part on Brian Brian? There's been so many comments rolling in here. Good for you that I left the shop, or good for you that we're in Florida, or what? I don't know. Yeah, I'd gotten the oh yeah, Midway. I did a lot of diesel work, believe it or not. Power strokes were just, they were always falling apart up there. If I got in a pinch, I would go there to get a couple of injectors or something like that, or if I had to get a Fickum for one. But it did a lot of diesel work for the Fords. They're almost job security, so to speak. But up there, you did a lot of ball joints, Of course, Missouri had a state inspections also, which I think are great to a point, but they've got it now where if you've got a car that's 5 years and younger, you don't have to get an inspection on it, even though you could be driving around with a brake light out or something like that, or half the brakes don't even work. They think that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, now it's just the 6.7 starting to show its issues. When they first come out with the 6.7, Ford did anyway, they were dropping valves, breaking the heads off of them and that kind of stuff. I did work for Ford for a short time before I started my own place. I worked for them for about 6 months, and I was actually in between two of the diesel techs there, and I learned a lot of stuff from them. I picked up on it pretty quick, but I was actually their transmission tech there. And for anybody that says they're all nuts and bolts, you're so wrong. I'm going to tell you right now, one of my arch enemies is the 4R70, which is Ford's equivalent to 700 or 4L60E. They are built different from anything I've worked on before, and they have their own sets of issues. I had one that just wiped me out. And I told them right from the get-go it probably needs to have a box put in it. They wanted me to keep rebuilding it. Same thing happened. Ford meddled around with a CVT in there. What was that car? It wasn't a 500. I think it was a Taurus, but a wagon. But it had a 3-liter V6 in it with a CVT. And unlike GM, you don't go into the belts or anything like that on those. You just reseal them, and that's about the extent. Well, I'd been in this CVT twice, and I never could get it to work just right because I didn't have the training on it. And I told him that, says, hey, you need to send me some training on it. And he said, nope. We're not sending you training. You just need to take it apart and fix it again. So I'm not fixing it again, not unless you put a box in it. So he goes, well, what, are you refusing to do the work? I says, yeah, I am. And he goes, all right, well, I don't have anything for you then. And I was like, all right. So I wrote up a quick letter of resignation, gave it to him, signed it, and I had tow truck come pick up my box, and I was gone. I was if they didn't care enough to send their techs to schooling for what you're working on, then I didn't care to be there. I really liked the shop too. It was probably one of the nicest dealership shops that I'd been in. It was well set up, and the whole floor was epoxied, which was great. Because if you get down there on the ground or something like that, and you got to get underneath the vehicle, you just grab a hold of the frame and pull yourself under there, and you just slide all over the place. It was great. It sucked when you got antifreeze on it, though. Made it slick. Yeah, Brian, anymore, when I would do those 6 liters, if I planned far enough ahead of time, I actually used to buy them from actual Pensacola Diesel down here because they gave me the best rate on it, and you could do it right there online. You just order what you need, and up it comes. They're most of the problems those 6 liters had were EGR coolers, and high pressure oil system failures, which they made revisions on a lot of stuff, and it kind of helped. But kind of cool if you get one that didn't work, the first thing you'd look at is your ICP flow. I mean, they'd had to have at least 500 pounds of oil pressure to fire the injectors because they were fired by oil. They were electronic controlled, but it used high pressure oil to run the injectors. So if it didn't build up 500 pounds of oil pressure, it wasn't going to start. Yeah, that's the easiest way to work on them, believe it or not, with no cab on it. You can get to everything that way, especially the turbo bolt, because the turbos were terrible. I mean, the first designs of them 6 liters in 03.5 to 04 or something like that, whenever they first come, I think it was 03.5. The turbo pedestal was the bolts. How did they do those? They came in from like the backside. There was 3 of them that held the turbo onto the pedestal, and you'd always round one of those bolts off, and it made it a hell of a time to get it off. And then they changed them in like 05, and they made the bolts go down from the top, and it made it a whole lot better. A good customer found this F350 crew cab, long bed. Yeah, clear the back. Bought a 350. He brought it by for me to look at. It was lifted, had big tires on it. And I told him, I says, look, you don't want to buy this thing. I says, I would steer clear of it if I was you. I wouldn't buy it. Well, he bought it anyway. Long story short, he ended up having to put a cylinder head on it. Did an EGR delete on it, or a cooler delete, and a couple other things because it leaked enough coolant that it cracked the head. And that's what would happen is they'd get low on coolant and they'd crack the head. So, yeah, putting injectors in it and all sorts of stuff. He says, I should have listened to you. I says, I tried to tell you. Oh, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. I'm getting tired. Been a long day. Not really, but I did get some much needed sun. Oh, where was the truck that he brought me? Is that what you're asking? Well, fellers, I think I might be just about talked out for the night. What dealer did you had your box picked up from? Oh, it was from a Ford dealer. Yeah, it was a Ford dealer that was out west of where I used to live up there. It was actually in Kansas. And pretty much every time I had to move my toolbox, it was on the back of a flatbed just because it was so dang heavy. I know when I brought it down here, I got it in my my enclosed trailer without much issue, but when it was coming out, one of the wheels went actually through the wood on the door on the tailgate because it was that heavy. Steven, how many cars or trucks SUV you got? I have a 2002 Ford Escape, a 2002 Chevy 2500 HD. Wife has a 91 Toyota Hilux pickup. Have a 2016 Honda Pilot. I have a 2003 Mercury Sable. Not running at this time. And I've got the Donor 89 Camaro. That is an IROC. Well, all of them are IROCs. I've got an 87 IROC. And then I've got Scarlet, which is an 87 IROC. And a slew of trailers. Brian, it was actually in... it was west of Stillwell, Kansas, if you know where that's at. For the life of me, I can't think of what the name of the dealership was, but it was a family-owned dealership. Like I said, it was pretty nice, really nice. They spent some money on it. But yeah, that would be considered KC area. Oh yeah, Steven. I also got a 2012 Honda or 2012 Yamaha Roadliner S motorcycle that I ride, which I love riding, but just the weather down here just hadn't been cooperating. Yep, it's off of 69 highway. God, I can't remember what the name of that dang Ford dealer was out there. It was a pretty popular one. Apparently, they treated everybody well as far as, buying a car, but And apparently the Ford guys that have been there for a long time, they'd done all right, but they couldn't keep a transmission tech, and I could see why. Let's see if I can find the name of that place. And of course, they may have sold it too. I mean, I'm not sure. Huh, I don't even see it. There it is. It's Lewisburg Ford. That's what it was. That's what the name of it was. Olathe. Okay, so Brian, what made you move to Kentucky from Olathe? Is that where you said you were at? Go back up through the comments. I don't see it. I thought you said something about Kentucky. That might have been something else. Ice 427. What's going on, buddy? Yeah, Brian, it was kind of funny. We did actually all the technicians got to do PDIs, and it's kind of weird driving the first, couple of Escape hybrids. Strange vehicle. You could almost get all the way around the corner without the engine even starting. And Brian, there was a guy that I used to work with that took over operations of Freightliner in Columbia, did Columbia Freightliner. God. Bob something, Birch. Bob Birch. Of course, that was, man, he's probably retired by now because that was back in 97 to like 2000. He was at Westfall Odell up in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, which is where I was working at the time. Hell of a service manager. Great guy, super great guy. But, he was up there in age then. I'm sure he's long since retired from Columbia Freightliner, but I could be wrong. I was so mad when he left, though, because he was just a hell of a service manager. He treated everybody right. Everybody liked him. And it was crazy. Now it's no longer Westfall Odell. They sold it when Janie Odell passed, I think it was. It was a family-run dealerships also. Yeah, I had Westfall GMC there in Kansas City. And, I knew I grew up and went to school with Mike Westfall, which was one of the sons. And Garrett Westfall was younger than him. No, Midway Ford and Westfall GMC have never gotten along. As long as I've been around Kansas City, they have never gotten along. But yeah, I knew KC Freightliner and Columbia Freightliner were probably related in some way. Yeah, Midway Ford and Westfall GMC are kind of like the arguments you would get between the service director and the parts department, finding out who's going to pay for what part that got put on a ticket that they're not paying for. It's kind of one of them Clash of the Titans type of deal. They never get along. Well, y'all, I'm going to probably end up dozing off in the chair here before too long. So I'm going to call it a night. I want to thank you all very much for coming by. I really appreciate it. I was getting skeptical whether or not I was going to have anything happen. But I'd sure like to see some more participation. If you all think about it, tell your friends to stop by and say hey and so on and so forth. But same thing I say in all my videos, y'all. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. God bless you and God bless America. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.